Hello everyone, welcome back to part 2 of this lecture on option pricing in the binomial world, where we're going to talk about risk-neutral probabilities. Because so far we focused on the replicating portfolio approach, and crucially what you did not see was probabilities. So for this replicating portfolio, what we needed was the share price at expiration, whether it's going up or down, and the call price at expiration, whether it's going up and down. And some indication of what the risk-free rate. What crucially was missing was probabilities of going up and down. So that is a huge advantage of this way of pricing, is that you do not need to know what the actual probabilities are. However, what these models do say is, well, you can kind of infer what the probabilities are. So suppose just to give a little bit of a numerical example. So suppose I have options that pay either or shares that pay either 100 or 10. Well, then I can say something about the probability of the share price becoming 100 or 10, because suppose my share price is 90 versus when it's 20. Well, in this first case, I can assign a lot higher of a probability to the upstate than to the downstate. While in this case, it's much more likely that we'll end up in the downstate than in the upstate. So the fact that you have a certain share price at the beginning gives you an indication of what the probabilities are, even though those probabilities are not modeled explicitly. And you can also see this in the formulas that we've used so far. Because so what did we have before? Well, we had, and don't become too afraid of all the stuff that's in here just yet. I'll talk you through it. Don't worry about it. So we had that the call price was equal to the price of the replicating portfolio, which was equal to delta S plus B, and B was defined as so CD minus delta SD over ERT. Okay, so far so good. And then we also knew that this delta here, this delta was CU minus CD over SU minus SD. So we can fill that in, and then we get, well, this monster right here, where I simply filled out this entire, so delta here times S plus CD over ERT minus delta, so that's this part right here, times SD over ERT. And then we can rewrite this, and I promise you this is going somewhere, to terms of CD and CU. And I'll tell you in one moment why we do that. But for now, stick with me. So let's pull this thing apart and group all the CUs together. So this is CU times S over SU minus SD, minus CD times S over SU minus SD plus CD over ERT, minus CU times SD over ERT over SU minus SD. So that's this part here. And then this final part here can also be written out right here. So let's add up all the CU terms. So CU times S over SU minus SD. Let's see where else we have CU times SD over ERT. So let's call this SD times E to the power minus RT. And those are both divided by this SU minus SD. How convenient. So then we can group all the CU terms together. Let's see if we can do the same for the CD terms. So let's see, here we have CD times E to the power minus RT, so that's this part right here. And then we also have CD times SD over ERT. So I think here I likely made a mistake. Oh yeah, no, it is correct. It is correct, because here I have a minus, and I just wanted to put this in the right signs. So because here I have plus CD times SD over ERT, so minus minus is plus, so that makes sense. And then here I have CD times S, so this also makes sense. All right, so this makes this a lot better, because now I have this formula where C is CU times, well, something times X plus CD times Y. And I can rewrite this slightly, because if I then take out this e to the power rt minus rt, I can rewrite this even further, because then, well, I'm left with this monster right here. So if this is what I'm left with, then I can define this row right here as, well, this term right here. So SERT minus SD over SU minus SD. And then I have this formula which looks a lot cleaner, namely C is rho times CU plus 1 minus rho CD, and then discounted by the risk-free rate. So why is this? Well, first of all, of course, it's pleasing to the eye, this final formula, so it looks a lot cleaner than it did before. But this rho can also be interpreted. So if you look closely here, my call option price is a combination of the call option price when it's going up and the call option price when it's going down. And how you can interpret this rho is the risk neutral probability. So if maybe you already get a sense of this, that here the C is equal to risk neutral probability of the up price plus the risk neutral probability of a down price. So let's say normally, let's say if I have a coin flip that pays me €1 for heads, then my payoff will be 0.5, so probability of heads times 1 plus 0.5 probability of tails times 0. So this approximately looks the same. However, note that this P here is not the actual probability, but is instead the risk neutral probability, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then here discounted once, because, well, this payoff is going to be in the future. So why are we working with these risk neutral probabilities if these are not the real probabilities? Because, well, risk neutral probabilities are very convenient. So if all market participants are risk neutral, they don't really care about how risky the payoff for something is. They will only look at, hey, what is the expected payoff without caring about the risk. So let's look back in our earlier example, if we can use this risk neutral world to actually price this call option. So we were in this example for European call option, expires in 1 year, has an exercise price of 50, and the stock price can either go to 60 or 40, and it's 50 right now. And then we have the risk-free rate at 6%. Then what we can do, instead of using a replicating portfolio, we can calculate risk-neutral probabilities. So essentially what we're saying, if we're living in this risk-free world, it doesn't matter for an investor whether they're investing this 50 right here, so this S50, whether they're investing that 50 in a share that can either have a value of 60 or 40 in a year, or if they're investing this 50 in some risk-free asset that gives them a known return. So that means that if investors don't care about those should be equivalent. So whether we're investing 50 in the share and then getting the share price when the share price goes up, so 60 times the probability of getting 60 plus the probability of getting 40 times the price of 40 should be the same as investing this 50 in the risk-free asset and then getting, well, let's say something like 53, right? 50 times e to the power 0.06. So if those two are equivalent, and in a risk-neutral world they have to be equivalent because investors don't care about risk, so whether they're investing in this risky stock or investing in this riskless bond should be exactly the same to them, then we can calculate, hey, what is this probability, this risk-neutral probability, so the probability of going up in a risk-neutral world. And for that I'm going to let you guys calculate it in Mentimeter. So if we have this one equation, one unknown, what is rho? I'll give you a moment to pause me. And then of course rho is 65%. How do you calculate that? Well, simply here fill in the numbers. So this is rho times 60 plus 40 minus rho times 40 equals, well, 50 e 0.06, So rho is 50e.06 minus 40 over 60 minus 40. And we can also do it by referring back to the slide we had earlier, where we defined our rho as S times e to the power RT minus SD over SU minus SD. So by rewriting the portfolio replication method. And if we fill in that formula, then we get this exact same 0.655. So that is great. We have the same outcome. Then of course, if we know these risk-neutral probabilities, then we can also calculate what the value of the call option is. Because if investors are risk-neutral, then they don't care about risk. So investing in a safe bond that gives them a certain payout is the same as investing in a stock that gives them a certain expected payout is the same as investing in a call option that gives them a certain expected payout. So if we have these risk-neutral probabilities of rho of 0.655 and 1 minus rho of 1 minus 0.655, my question to you is, what is the price of the call option? And of course, I'm going to let you guys calculate again. I'll give you a moment to pause me. And then I get a value of 6.16. So how do you do that? Well, simply take the risk-neutral probability times the call price when it goes up, plus 1 minus the risk-neutral probability call price when it goes down, so 0. That should be equal to investing just this amount C in the risk-free asset. And then if I calculate that, I get a value of 6.16, which is exactly the same as what we calculated before when we used the replicating portfolio approach. So that is very heartening that it doesn't really matter what we do, we always get the same outcome. So this is just another way of calculating the option price. It is more or less the same thing as using the replicating portfolio. It's just a different way of getting to the same outcome. So note that we did not make, for this risk-neutral world, we did not make any assumption about what the risk preferences of investors are in the real world. We only made assumptions about what they are in the risk-neutral world. So they can pretty much still be anything in the real world as long as we can use this risk-neutral valuation to value the call option without knowing anything about the actual risk preferences of the investors. So one thing that we do know is that in the real world, investors are typically risk averse. So if I have, let's say, something that's risk-free, so risk-free, that gives me a certain payout of let's say 10, and then I have let's say a certain uncertain payout, something that gives me either a payout of 0 or of 20. Then, well, in a risk-free world, so risk-free world, rho here would be 50%, and in a risk-free world here rho would be 50%. Compared to, well, this certain payout of 10%, because it gives me the exact same payout. In the real world, I want to be compensated for my risk, so rho here will be slightly higher. So let's say maybe it's 60%, so P is maybe 60%, and 1 minus P is maybe 40% or so. A bit hard to say. You don't know exactly what the risk preferences are, but certainly because investors are risk averse, the probability of the upstate needs to be higher than of the downstate. Or if those probabilities are 50%, the payout for the upstate has to be higher than in the risk neutral world, because investors need to be compensated for their risk. So this is what I already said. So the risk neutral probabilities overweigh the bad states, they underweigh the good states. So actual probabilities of the good state are higher than the risk neutral probabilities. Risk neutral probabilities are purely there so that you can actually calculate the value of a certain asset and do not have anything to do with what the actual probabilities in the real world are. So how can you then use these risk-neutral probabilities to price an option, especially if you want an option that's slightly more complicated than this binomial model? Well, we'll talk a little bit about that in the next part of the lecture when I talk about binomial trees that involve more steps. And then once you have more and more of those steps, then you can start thinking about maybe programming something in Excel, maybe do a little Monte Carlo type estimation, where you simply take where you take a lot of steps and then look for, hey, what is the probability mass of my outcomes? Maybe I'll talk a little bit about that in week 6, or maybe I'll let you experiment with that a little bit in week 6. I haven't decided yet. For now, next part of the lecture, let's look at multiple branches on the binomial tree.